Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane's studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday, working towards the weekend. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Thanks for hanging out with us. LSU beats Ole Miss in double overtime. We'll talk about it. Plus, an Instagram post that has made some waves here in Baton Rouge. We'll talk about that. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team is here at 1:30. Will Clapp has hung him up. We'll discuss that at the end of the hour. How's LSU going to fare at the Combine? I've got a thought on all 11 players that are going to be in Indianapolis over the course of the next 5 days. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers at 2:15. So plenty to do. We're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Let's crank it up the way we do every day with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
LSU baseball got a day off yesterday. They probably earned a day off. Played 8 games in 10 days to crank up the season, and you're about to have a wraparound week where you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. So a lot of action in the first 3 weeks of the season, as there always is. You want to get as many guys at bats as you can. You want to get as many guys, as many innings as you can, and that means you got to play a lot of games. And Jay Johnson scheduled it that way, and they certainly do. So LSU took the day off yesterday after the disappointing loss to McNeese, and now they'll set their sights on the weekend to come. They'll play Dartmouth on Friday and Sunday. They'll play Northeastern on Saturday and Monday. Neither of those teams especially good, but McNeese is not great either, and LSU didn't play very well on Tuesday. So the goal for LSU is to take care of their own business over the weekend. Jay Johnson just met with the media and had a couple things to say. I want to revisit some sound from after the game on Tuesday to put some context for some of the things he said today. That starts with what he said about Cade Arambidi on Tuesday after that game went final against McNeese. Remember, Arambidi was taken out of that game for Omar Cerna in the middle.
You guys went to Omar there in the 5th inning. Anything going on with Cade there?
He hurt his foot. He said he couldn't play anymore, and I don't know anything else other than that.
Okay, quick answer. And look, Jay Johnson can be a little coy with injuries. We know this. I'm starting to speak Jay pretty well. And at that point, he said he hurt his foot. I take him at his word on that, and it sounds like that's correct. Jay Johnson was asked now 2 days later, what about the foot? And Jay Johnson said Cade Arambidi is going to be just fine. That's a big deal. Big deal. I mean, you fear the worst in that instance. I saw John Eads from WAFB put a post up on Twitter of the play where Arambidi hurt himself on Tuesday. It is a foul ball, and he's in his crouch, and it hits him right on the foot. And he kind of comes up out of his crouch and walks it off a little bit, and he was able to stay in the game for a little bit longer, but eventually was taken out in the next half inning. And so if it's just a bruise, who cares? If he's just going to be back on Friday, who cares? No big deal. I mean, easy for me to say. My foot didn't get hit with a foul ball or a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, but not a story. The only story here is if he broke his foot. Like, that would be the story. And he did not break his foot. If he had broken his foot, that'd be a big deal. Because when you look at LSU positionally, catcher is a spot you would take a rather significant step back if you were to lose your starter. And you don't want that to happen. Omar Cerna is going to be a heck of a player at LSU. A heck of a player at LSU. And he may have some big moments this year. They're going to play him some. He's got prodigious power. He's got a really good arm. But as far as the bat goes, he's not necessarily ready right this second to go face SEC arms. And I think Cade Arambidi is. I don't know that because Cade Arambidi hasn't played a full SEC season, but he led LSU in hitting in the fall, and they're all SEC pitchers, and he's off to a ridiculous start early on when you compare him to his peers facing lesser pitching. So that's a guy you've got to have in the lineup, and it appears LSU will have him for the weekend. My guess is he catches 2 games this weekend and Cerna catches 2 games this weekend, and they will probably do that not based on the opposing pitcher. They'll probably do that based on LSU's pitcher. Remember, Jay Johnson and Josh Jordan like to match up catchers and pitchers to keep everybody as comfortable as possible. And last year, Cade Arambidi jumped in and caught Anthony Ianson a good bit down the stretch. So great news that LSU will get Cade Arambidi back. As far as Chris Stanfield goes, This one, I'm kind of scratching my head on a little bit in like the least curious way. If I was like full on tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, that's a 10, and not even aware is a 0. I'm like a 2 or a 3 here, so this is not extreme in any way. But I saw the Chris Stanfield play when Jake Brown hit a rocket down the first base line. The first baseman snared it, threw it to the plate. Stanfield slid in, trying to beat the play, slid into the catcher really hard. And I, in the press box on that Saturday, went, oh, like that looked like the potential for an injury. And Stanfield got up and he had the oven mitt on his right hand and he kind of shook it off and kind of walked slowly to the dugout. And like, it certainly wasn't an instance where Chris Stanfield was down for 5 minutes. It wasn't an instance where they had to get Isaac Tahir, the trainer, out there to look at him. It had nothing to do with any of that, but you saw the play. It didn't look great. And Jay Johnson has kind of told us, well, they're swelling. They're swelling. The swelling's gone down. I think he can play. There was massive swelling. Now he's grabbing a bat. And Jay Johnson said today, on Thursday, for a 4-game week coming up, that Stanfield probably won't hit this week. I want to be as clear as I can possibly be on this take here so that no one misunderstands at all. It just feels like 2 full weeks is a long time for a bruised hand. Doesn't it? Like, that's a little paranoid, but like you jam a finger or like you have a bruise on the top of your hand, you're 22 years old, college athlete, I would think you'd be back out there quicker than that. That said, every time Jay Johnson talks, he says the swelling's getting better. He grabbed a bat. He's swinging bats. Like, I don't think Chris Stanfield broke his hand. I don't think that's true. I'm also not 100% married to everything Jay Johnson says in a press conference. And to be very clear on top of this, I don't care if Jay Johnson doesn't tell the truth. If Chris Stanfield broke his hand and Jay Johnson doesn't want Oklahoma or Vanderbilt in the first 2 weekends to know he had a broken hand, I'm fine with that. Don't tell us. Do whatever you got to do. Run your program. But the analyst in me, who's here to talk to you about the LSU team, is looking at this going, this guy's going to miss 1 weekend and then 2 full weeks because he kind of bruised his hand a little bit. Like, that's seems like a lot. But what it's done, and this is the bigger point here than how does Chris Stanfield feel today. The bigger point is Stanfield is a 3-year proven veteran in this lineup. You know, you put him out there in an SEC 30-game regular season set, he's going to hit somewhere in the neighborhood of 280. He's going to hit 6, 7, 8 doubles. He hit more than that last year and a better average than that last year. He's going to steal a couple bases, and he's going to play great defense in center field or left field. You know what Chris Stanfield has got to be. There's not a bunch of development that needs to go on with Chris Stanfield from Omaha last year to right now. He is what he is as a college player, and it's really good. And so you want him back in the lineup, but you're not necessarily stunting his development, missing at bats, missing practice time. He'll get in the swing of things. When he gets in the swing of things, he'll be fine. What this has done is it has created at bats in this log jam. Because Seth Dardar is commanding at bats at second base. Jay Johnson wants to get Tanner Reeves at bats, so he's moved him out to left field. Jay Johnson wants to get Braden Simpson at bats, but Dardar's probably a better defender, so Dardar plays second, and he's played Simpson out in left field. And all the while, you're still looking for opportunities to get Mason Braun involved, and he's a corner outfielder, so he can go play in left field. He can go play in right field if Jake Brown moves. You're allowing for that logjam of Dardar, of Simpson, of Braun, of Reeves to play a little bit. And I would also lump Omar Cerna into that group and John Pearson into that group because you're talking about DH as well. So this is not the worst thing in the world that Chris Stanfield is missing some time. If he misses 4 more games, then that stinks for him. I'm sure he wants to play. I don't know that it'll cost LSU a game. And what it is doing is getting some more guys some reps. Because guess what? And I'm going to talk to some few folks about this over the weekend, and we'll certainly talk to Glenn and Koki next week about some of it. But, like, there's not enough playing time for everyone to get a lot of at-bats. Like the group I just mentioned, Dardar, Simpson, Pearson, Braun, Cerna, and Reeves, like that group there's just not enough at bats, because if you come back and Dardar's got to play second and Stanfield comes back, all I've got left is DH. That's it. And I've got like 4 or 5 guys that want at bats. So if this is a 3-week deal in the pre-conference where Chris Stanfield can't start and can't play, and it's allowed for, I guess I can count, opening weekend was Sunday, and then you played Monday, and then you played Wednesday, and then you had 3 over there in Jacksonville, and then you had 1 midweek, and then you got 4 coming up this week, so that's 11. And then you got 1 more ULL. That's like 12 games that you've allowed those guys to share at bats. And I think that's going to be a positive in cultivating a little bit of depth on this team. Do I want Chris Stanfield back? Absolutely. Plus defender, plus runner, able to handle SEC velocity, played in huge games, huge hits in Omaha, capable of sacrifice bunting, like big hit in the super regional. Like, yes, I want him in the game. I want him in the lineup. But for right now, if we can use February and early March to get some other guys some reps so I can see what I have in Tanner Reeves, so I can see what I have in Braden Simpson, so I can get some guys some reps in the outfield in case there's an injury further on down the line, and I can understand what I'm trying to do here, I'll take it. I'm trying to see the silver lining here in a bit of a crummy situation for Stanfield, who came back to play this year and is missing some time, and who knows what the actual injury is. I'll take Jay at his word for right now and say, hey, it's a bone bruise there on the hand, and he'll be back before SEC play. But this has been a positive time for cultivating depth, getting a lot of guys some at-bats, and so you'll see a lot more over the next 4 days, even 6 days, when you coop in the Louisiana Lafayette game coming up on Wednesday of next week. So that's a look at LSU baseball. We'll talk some baseball with Joe Healy coming up in 15 minutes. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. When we come back, 1, LSU won a basketball game last night. Not a huge story, but we'll talk about it. And 2, a pretty loud voice in Baton Rouge spoke about it after the game. We'll talk about that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. HighlandIG.com is the website. I tell you about property and casualty just about every day with the Highland Insurance Group, and they're happy to do that. If you're a business looking for your commercial insurance program and you want a second set of eyes on it, the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help. But also, they do group and employee benefits. And if you're a business who is looking at that benefits renewal and going, this is just untenable, we keep getting these price hikes, it's hurting our bottom line. Well, that's happening to a lot of folks around South Louisiana. And the Highland Insurance Group has gotten some phone calls about it. And I can't guarantee you that they're going to come in and undercut that price, but I can guarantee they can give you a second option. And that second option may be better. And you know how important those benefits are to your employees. It's important to get people in the door. It's important to keep talent in your organization with your benefits. So talk to the Howard Insurance Group, Jonathan Carbo and his team. Tell them, hey, I'm looking for property and casualty. Hey, I'm looking for benefits or a second eye on either one, and they're happy to do it. It's the Howard Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
March Madness is heading to Las Vegas, and LouisianaSports.net is sending one of you plus a friend with it. We're giving away a 3-night Las Vegas getaway from Wednesday, March 18th through Saturday, March 21st. Just in time to watch all the madness. Hotel stay and flights are covered. All you have to do to enter is head to LouisianaSports.net, click the March Madness getaway link, sign up now before our March Madness Pick'em launches. Get yourself entered, and you could be watching the tournament from Las Vegas instead of your couch. Winners will be announced Monday, March 2nd.
I was talking to my guy Sean Sagrera earlier today. Sagrera Farms, they bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. He sent me some pictures, even a video of some steaks that they cut up this week, and you're talking 18.29 on the IMF scale. You realize the threshold for prime is 9. So you're double the threshold for prime. incredible product that they've got. And right now he tells me they're looking at 2029 right now. Why are they looking at 2029? Because every single cow on that farm is a 3-year journey. And he's got folks driving in from all over the country to, one, buy his product, and two, see what it is he's doing. He's like, well, there's no real secret. Like, it's just genetics. The secret, and I use air quote, is genetics. It's not the diets you feed the cows. It's not the land you're on. The secret is genetics. And Sean has unlocked that, and it's just been a steady process over the years. And the result is 18.29 on the IMF score. So look, if you want some of the best beef in the country in your freezer, as grilling season is upon us here shortly, spring's coming, summer's coming, you're going to want steaks on the grill, you want burgers on the grill, flank steaks. Talk to Sean. Call up Sean and say, hey, I want to come out to the farm. His number is 225-719-1723. That's 719-1723. And go see the operation. Go see the product and bring it home. Have some of the best steaks you will have had in your life. And they come from just north of Baton Rouge in Ethel at Sagrera Farms. All right, 2 pieces to the story on this basketball deal from last night. The first piece is that LSU won a basketball game. And I know that doesn't matter for the 2026 postseason hopes. It doesn't, because they're not making the postseason. They've won 3 league games. But I feel good for the players. Players have endured a lot of losses. It's not fun. Just because you lose a lot doesn't mean you get to sleep in. You don't go to morning workout or go to classes, fly, stay in the hotels, get back real late nights, have to get up for class the next morning, workouts. Like, it's a grind, and they lose a lot. So when they win, I'm happy for them. I think it's great. Last night, they were down the majority of that game, and they fought and scrapped and clawed to get it back to overtime. I mean, you look at the end of this game, and I was looking at the second half box earlier. I mean, they're down 7 with 5:36 to go. And Rashad King hits a 3. Nwoku goes to the line and makes a couple. He went back to the line, made a couple. And then Rashad King hits 2 free throws late to tie the game with 15 seconds left. And LSU played really good defense to get basically 2 stops on Ole Miss because Robert Miller blocked it out of bounds. And then Ole Miss got to re-inbound it, and they got into the corner and missed a 3. So you get to overtime, and you're fighting, scrapping, clawing, and looks like you're in trouble because you go down 4 quickly. But you get a couple of buckets, and you tie things up with 1:09 to go, and then they make 2 free throws. Pablo Tamba, 36 seconds to go, gets to the rim, lays one in, and now you got to play defense. And they did. They played great defense. It looked like they got to stop, and they were going to get the ball back, and Robert Miller had it, got knocked away, and Ole Miss, great hustle play, saved it, called timeout, and got to draw one more up. And LSU played great defense and staved them off. And then LSU really asserted itself in the second overtime. I can't go any further without talking about Max McKinnon, who was just brilliant in the game. He made 5 threes in the first half, carried LSU to the locker room, essentially, when they weren't playing any defense at all. Ole Miss was scoring at will, and McKinnon was knocking down shots. And he wasn't great in the second half, but in overtime, he was brilliant. And he finished the game with 34 points, made some threes, was getting to the rim, making some below-the-rim running shots, and was just awesome in the game. Shout out to Jalen Reese, who played 47 minutes in this game, had 10 assists and 1 turnover. Just great stuff from him as well. He was plus 12 in the game. Nwoku fouled out, and Rob Miller had to play more. They played tough. They played gritty. They played a team that's lost 10 games in a row in the league, okay? So I'm not, putting them in the tournament. I'm not retiring anybody's jersey. But a nice job by the team to get a 106-99 win on the road at Ole Miss. And that's where we'll kind of stop with that game, right? Good hustle, good effort, good grit, good determination, way to close it out. Awesome job, McKinnon. You win the game. Super. That's not really a huge story, okay? Moving to 3-11 in the league? Not a huge story. But 3-12, I think. Yeah, there's 3 games left. 3-12 in the league. Not a huge story. But after the game, E.J. Kuiper, who is the president and CEO of FMOL Health, LSU's championship health partner, comes on and says, look, I think LSU should give Matt McMahon a chance next year. And you might say, well, who cares what some guy at a hospital says? I'll read you the Instagram post verbatim. LSU men's basketball beats Ole Miss in Oxford. Matt McMahon is a good coach, took over a program that was in shambles and had to deal with key injuries all season long. He deserves another chance. Just a guy that runs a hospital in Baton Rouge. Or the president and CEO of a partner of LSU who also was on the 6-man search committee for LSU's football coach. That's a guy who knows people and has a voice. Now, I can't tell you to what degree EJ Kuiper has a voice. LSU is not going around to all of its sponsors and asking who should coach the softball team and who should coach the baseball team and who should coach the women's basketball team and who should coach the track team. That's obviously not how things work. But to suggest that this is just a nothing burger, I think, would be waving off something that you probably shouldn't. LSU trusted him enough to bring him into the fold when they were looking for a football coach. And that's just fact. Like, that's a fact. All of that's factual. Here is where I start to speculate, okay? Speculation by Hunt, not fact. He was on the search committee? Fact. He runs the hospital? Fact. The hospital's partnered with LSU? Fact. Here comes Hunt speculation. This is a guy who's in business. This is a guy who runs a multi-billion-dollar health system. This is a guy who deals in large sums of money and massive budgets. And LSU's athletic budget is massive. LSU's expenses and revenues are massive. And to me, because this guy is not from Louisiana, he's not even born and raised in the United States. Now, he's been here a long time. He lives here, and he's a Baton Rouge resident now, but he spent time in Omaha, and he's a guy that's now here in Baton Rouge. So he's not like you and me that grew up as a 3-year-old emotional LSU fan. This is a guy who sees this through the eyes of a business person. Again, I'm speculating, but it seems reasonable, right? And the business side of this is it's expensive to fire a basketball coach. It's really expensive to fire Brian Kelly. It's really expensive to pay athletes $21, $22 million a year. I'm just connecting dots here as to why he may think that it's a good idea not to move on from Matt McMahon. Now, maybe he's got a relationship with Matt McMahon. He likes Matt McMahon a lot. He's a partner of LSU's. Matt McMahon's a coach at LSU. Perhaps he's just sticking up for a guy that he's got a great relationship with. That could be too. That's also complete speculation. What's beyond speculation is looking at the wins and losses in Matt McMahon's tenure here. The first season was awful because the program had been gutted, and the second season was mediocre, and the third season was awful, and the fourth season has been, to this point, awful. Part of that is injury. Part of that is the strength of the league. Part of that is poor recruiting. Part of that is poor development. Part of that is some bad luck. Part of that's losing some close games. There's a pie to go around, a big pie to go around here in terms of what the issue is. But the record at the end of the day for Matt McMahon is not very good. So ultimately, this comes down to, do you think it can get better? Do you want to spend the money? Do you think this is rock bottom? Do you care about the men's basketball program drastically being different? And who's the best person to do that moving forward? I know how the LSU basketball fan feels. I hear you every day. I know how you feel. But you can't shoo away this Instagram post. You can't. We wrote about it at LouisianaSports.net. This is someone who was in the arena during the Brian Kelly, Lane Kiffin situation. And though basketball is a smaller deal here, on a smaller scale, this is kind of some of the same. Do you feel like you need to move on? Do you feel like you can get a new coach? Do you feel like this is financially doable in the new climate? All of that is worth discussion. And it's a tough part of my job here because as I look at it, I don't know what the appetite is for spending a bunch of cash. I don't know what the care level is with the important boosters on basketball. I don't know how involved EJ Kuiper is in this. I don't know if it's 0 or 50% or 2%. I just know what he put on Instagram. So I don't believe in my heart of hearts that the next 3 games are going to matter for LSU in terms of the future of the program. I think more so than these 3 games, it's the total of body of work for Matt McMahon, and it's the financial side of it. And neither of those 2 things have anything to do with the last 3 games. You can win them all, and you're not in the tournament for 4 years in a row. You can lose them all, and you're not in the tournament for 4 years in a row. You can win them all, and there's no guarantee any of these guys are back next year. You can lose them all. There's no guarantee any of these guys are back next year. I think the decision on LSU's basketball future has likely already been made in discussion. It's either we don't want to spend the money, we've got what we think is a pretty good coach, and he may figure it out here, but in the event that he doesn't, we'll trim the buyout down. Or it's, yeah, we got to move on, but we can't for financials. Or it's, we got to move on, we're moving on. And I don't know ultimately how many people are in on that discussion. I know what the athletic director said. LSU needs to be in the tournament, and you're not going to the tournament. But I also know what one of the guys on the search committee said on Instagram today. So we'll see. That's a look at LSU hoops to this point. We'll step aside. Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team, next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Be prepared for the next power outage with a Generac home standby generator from the folks over at Boudreaux's Electrical. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. 40 years. They're a local, family-owned company that's been arming South Louisiana with Generac home standby generators for 4 decades. Hurricane blows through, you're at home, your power is going to stay on. Hurricane blows through, you evacuate. When you come back, power's on. I'll tell you the story all the time. Paul Skeens was about to throw his first pitch in the College World Series against Tennessee. Bad afternoon storm blow through. I lost power. Can't have it. No good. Avoid that situation with the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. They're going to have a full-time Boudreaux's employee come install the generator. They're going to service that generator, maintain that generator, monitor that generator in case something goes wrong so that they can get out and service it. That's just how they handle their business at Boudreaux's Electrical. You can call them at the original location, 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562. Or the Gonzales location, 225-300-9389.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Talk to Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, coming up in about 40 minutes. Right now, time for Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. You can also find him and Mark Etheridge, the Highway to Hoover podcast, wherever you find your podcast. He's with us on Thursdays. Joe, how are you?
Doing well, Hunt. I appreciate you having me on, as always.
It's our pleasure. Let's go back to last weekend, if we can. And I think the first place we probably start is with Tennessee. It's kind of low-hanging fruit here. They lose 2 out of 3 to Kent State. We mentioned Kent State on the air last week because I was impressed with them in South Louisiana opening weekend. What say you about the Flashes going to Knoxville and getting 2 games?
Yeah, obviously a surprising result, not necessarily a shocking one. And I give you credit because I wasn't necessarily thinking of them on the top of the list of potential upset candidates last weekend, and you called it out, and you were right to do so. Look, they've got some talented players. They've, Sawyer Solitary is an outfielder they have who's on the Golden Spikes watch list for a reason. Now, that being said, you would expect Tennessee to be able to kind of do like LSU did against Kent State, and, you get punched in the mouth a little bit, but you end up finding your way out of it. Tennessee just couldn't do that. And I think that what bugs me the most from a Tennessee standpoint, if I'm a Tennessee fan, is that it wasn't just one problem. It wasn't just the bats went silent all weekend, but that was certainly the case in the first 2 games of the series, even the game they won. And it wasn't just that they struggled with throwing strikes and getting outs, but that was the problem in game 3. It was a combination of both. And that kind of worries me if I'm a Tennessee supporter, just because it kind of suggests that maybe there's just more leaks in this boat than I think they originally thought. And if you made me pick, I think the strike throwing is kind of the one that worries me the most, because I've kind of always had this thought that as much as of a loss as Tony V is, and he's one of the best coaches in college baseball, that, I thought maybe Frank Anderson's departure might actually be the more impactful one, just because you're taking out, arguably the best, pitching coach in college baseball and putting a relative unknown in there with Josh Reynolds. So that's the part that I think if I were a Tennessee supporter would bother me the most is just the strike throwing, because those things tend to be harder to fix.
We'll get to the Vols this weekend coming up a little bit later, but a couple more from last weekend. Texas A&M got a sweep. They just didn't hit at all. What do you think about that outing against Penn?
Yeah, I don't know, man, because then they go out yesterday or 2 days ago and score 25 runs on Lamar, and I get that it's Lamar on a Tuesday, but still, part of this is Chris Hakopian is out with a back issue, and that's a little bit worrisome because he's only played 2 games so far this season, so it's not like it's just like he missed a midweek or he missed 1 game out of 3 over the weekend. Like, he's been gone really since opening weekend, and so that one's a little bit of an issue. They were also without Caden Sorrell, but he's back, so. But still, it's kind of the same thing as Tennessee. It's like, okay, there are reasons why maybe your offense would be a little bit subpar against Penn, but still, you think you'd score more than 3 runs in your first 2 games there. So I'm going to withhold a little bit of judgment and see what they do this weekend in a tournament that we'll talk plenty about, I'm sure. But I have to admit, I'm a little bit weirded out by what their lineup looks like, because I don't know how to square the start of the season with what we saw against Penn.
On the positive side, you got to look at Auburn, who looked like played very, very well. I didn't watch any of it. I'm curious your thoughts on the Tigers, specifically the front end of their rotation, which I always questioned last year with Sam Dutton.
Yeah, and you were right to do so. Like, ultimately, that was one of the things that kind of came undone for them is when they faced off against Coastal Carolina's dudes in that super regional, they didn't have the dudes to match. I mean, there are a lot of reasons they lost that, but that was a big one. And we'll see if this is any better, but I will say the guy they have on Fridays and Jake Marciano is a little bit of an elevated version of that. Now, it's not premium velocity, but it is premium command, and it is premium in terms of the variety of his repertoire. So I don't want to necessarily put too much of a ceiling on what he can do, because again, it looks a little different. It's not Casey Mize, but he has certainly performed as if he's got a shot at least to be Auburn's Friday guy. And I think the sight for sore eyes, though, the way their offense performed last weekend after there were a lot of questions about it. And the good news continues, as it sounds like Chris Rimbert is going to be available this weekend, and that's kind of ahead of schedule. So they're going to get a little more help even beyond what they got last weekend, where their bats finally woke up a little bit.
Very good news for Butch Thompson's squad. One more in the rear view, and then we'll go to this coming weekend. It's kind of relevance a little bit here locally. I could sense it in you and Mark's voice in preseason podcasts, and Mark wrote about it a little bit on the Dish today. But South Carolina has had 3 losses already, one in pretty brutal fashion to Auburn on Friday, and then last night got down to a school I never heard of in Queens. What is your thought right now on the outlook in Columbia?
It's not good. They're going to have to make a difficult decision here. I'm out of, when he first got the job, I was like, I wanted to be optimistic, and because he won a lot, right? And it's like, he doesn't have to win another national title necessarily. He's just got to kind of get South Carolina back to being a team that you could see getting to Omaha, and it's obviously gone in the other direction. And so it is going to be a difficult decision to make, because I think, if Paul is, and a lot of coaches are wired like this, but, Paul is stubborn and thinking that he could still get this sorted out. And again, I think that's how you have to be wired. But at some point you have to step in, and it just seems like they're out of answers. They tried, to really go heavy in the portal this time around, and that doesn't seem to be taking either. I'm a little bit dubious of some of the staff hires they made around him, as that hasn't worked out. It just feels like all the scenarios in which the negative ramifications of him being head coach have kind of played out. Like, none of the positive scenarios have really seemed to play out. It's all been negative. And so I think we're going to get to the end of the year, and they're going to have to make a difficult choice between, letting him go or trying to convince him that it's his own idea, that it's time to move on. But I think it's pretty clear that that's really all that's left on the table for South Carolina.
It does not look good there in Columbia at all. All right, let's go to Globe Life in Arlington, the number 1 team in the country, UCLA, who was unbelievable last weekend against TCU. Plays Tennessee on Friday, Texas A&M on Saturday, and Mississippi State on Sunday. That's just about must-see TV. I guess just kind of take it as a whole, if you would, one by one, and kind of what you're looking forward to and how you feel like the SEC teams stack up with as good a team as there is in the country.
Yeah, different things here. Like, I'm interested to see Mississippi State and do they look the part against the number one team in the country? That's going to be, obviously we'll get plenty of opportunities in SEC play to see State up against really good competition, but this will be our first look at, a team that we have inside the top five that still, there are still some folks that think they have some things to prove there, and I guess I see that. So seeing that now, granted it's on Sunday, but I think that makes the matchup a little more interesting because right now State does have a little bit of a Sunday problem with Charlie Foster in its rotation. UCLA also kind of has a Sunday problem with Landon Stump in its rotation. The first two guys for both teams have been really good. It's just been the third game, so that could be one where it's a little bit of a rock fight. But, teams that are going to win national titles have to be able to win rock fights. LSU in 23 and 25 did a pretty good job of winning its rock fights. So I think that's a big test there. And then I would lump Tennessee and Texas A&M in there together because I think they're both teams that really need to come out and have a good weekend to show that they're better than what we have them ranked. Are you a top, 20, 25 team, which you could argue that, I don't know, like 12, 13 SEC teams are kind of all in that same bucket? Or do you need to be grouped up a little bit higher with some of the elite teams in the country? I'm not convinced that either of them are there yet. But we're going to get a pretty good look at it, at least when they play UCLA and even Arizona State, because I liked what Arizona State did in the midweek against Oklahoma. That's a talented team that I think has a chance to be really, really good this year. Virginia Tech less so, but with those two games in particular, I'm kind of interested to see how Texas A&M and Tennessee line up.
Last one here, Joe. Appreciate your time here on this Thursday. Vanderbilt, I got to give Tim Corbett a ton of credit. They will just go play anybody, anywhere, anytime in the early season. Couple of tournaments for them, and they'll do that again this weekend. What have you made of Vanderbilt early on? LSU will get them in the SEC opener in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I consider me intrigued. They may have finally hit on the combination that allows them to be a capable offense. I mean, I think they've hit something like 23 home runs as a team so far this season, which is already like a third of what they hit all of last year. Some of that is surely competition. That pace will slow down as they get into SEC competition. But when you consider where they're coming from, I think they'll definitely take it. And I think it's a reminder that, I'm guilty of this as well. So I'll point the finger at myself, just kind of making assumptions about, hey, this Vanderbilt thing may be slipping. We need to keep an eye out. And there's been evidence of that. But I think we are too quick, myself included, to just assume that, Tim Corbin doesn't have it anymore, that he doesn't understand the game, or that the way he's looking at college baseball right now is incorrect. And, it could just be that they had a few teams where, for whatever reason, the player mix didn't match, or they tried to bring in new assistant coaches and that didn't really take. It could just be that they found the right combination this year. And I think the other thing I'd give Tim Corbin credit for is, like, he does tend to be a little bit of a stubborn guy, but when push comes to shove and he understands that, he's out of options and needs to make a change, he's willing to make a change. And sometimes that's more than you can say for others that are just going to stand by their guns regardless of what happens. And at least through the first, 2+ weeks of the college baseball season, it sure looks like Vanderbilt has figured something out because the offense is just so much more effective than it's been.
I got to say I'm a little bummed out that Cam Flukie is not pitching this weekend, whether that was against Texas or against Ole Miss. I mean, how do you think Coastal shakes up against those two SEC teams this weekend without their ace, which LSU fans saw real up close and personal in Omaha last year?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough road to hoe because they were never going to be the most offensive team in the world. They weren't last year. It was really going to come down to Cam Flukie and Hayden Johnson, and those are the two guys who were down. So I think they'll probably be competitive because that is a pretty – I hate this cliche, but it's true, like a pretty hard-nosed team. Like that's just the way that whole program is wired. So I think it'll be competitive, but I'm not overly optimistic given that the number one reason for optimism around Coastal Carolina was literally the two pitchers who are going to be missing this weekend. That's obviously not a real positive sign.
It is surely not. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate the time. We'll be listening, and we'll catch you up next week on Thursday.
All right, Hunt. See you, buddy.
Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team Highway to Hoover podcast as well. Remind you about Swing Easy Golf Club, swingeasygcbr.com, swingeasygcbr.com. Looking to play some golf this weekend? Don't have a tee time? Well, go play at Swing Easy. Get your group of friends out there. They got comfortable seating areas so you can watch your friends play, laugh at them, do whatever it is that you'd like to do. They'll bring you a bucket of ice-cold beers on ice, and you can crank some tunes. Play Pebble Beach, play Cypress Point, play TPC Sawgrass, car to score, or work on your game at the driving range. It's all up to you there on your individual private bays at Swing Easy Golf Club. Great spot to hang out on an evening or on a midday. Like you can go over there at 8 o'clock at night when it's pitch black, play some dark if you want to on a Friday night. Great place to hang out. Segan at Perkins. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com. When we come back, An LSU Tiger has hung him up. We'll tell you who, and kind of go over his career, which was kind of a dream. We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
GoTro's Outdoor Power. GoTro's Outdoor Power. 2 locations. Of course, you can find them on Airline Highway, where that huge inventory of Hustler mowers is. They're also in Gonzales as well. 22 years in the business. The GoTro family's been rocking and rolling. It's not small. It's family owned, but it's not small. You're talking about the largest parts inventory in Louisiana, and they're the largest Hustler inventory in the state by far. So if you're looking for a zero-turn mower and you want to get on by and grab one for your land, or if you're a business that wants to have one on site for your property, if you're just a homeowner that's got a little bit and want to get a new mower, you can do it over at GoTro's Outdoor Power. The customer service you're going to get there is truly second to none. They've got trucks that are running the entire state 8 hours a day. If you need a trailer to deliver your equipment, they can do that. Parts as well. It's just a family feel that you get with an incredibly large inventory as well. So if you're looking for a zero-turn mower as the spring comes and the grass starts growing, GoTro's Outdoor Power needs to be the first call you make. Check them out online at GoTrosOnline.com. That's GoTrosOnline.com. 2 locations, Baton Rouge and Gonzales. It's GoTro's Outdoor Power.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Closing up hour 1 here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Of course, remind you about Fabry Chevrolet GMC, Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Under new ownership, the Fabry family, they've been at it in Baton Rouge for 35 years, so not new to Baton Rouge, but new to Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Get on by and see them. And look, February is almost over. It's the 26th. So if you're looking for up to $11,000 off a Silverado, go now. If you're looking for 1.9 APR financing on a Silverado, go now. Looking for up to $13,000 off a GMC Sierra? Go now. Looking for 0.0 APR financing on a GMC Sierra? Go now. They also have those SUVs on the lot as well, the Chevy Tahoes, GMC Yukons, GMC Denali's. If you're looking for a new ride in 2026, get on by and see my friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. You can start your buying online, FabryChevrolet.com and FabryChevrolet.com. The entire inventory is there. But I highly suggest you go by and see them, Highway 61 in St. Francisville, Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Will Clapp announced over Instagram, I believe it was yesterday evening, that he is hanging them up. And I was thinking about Will Clapp. I met him one time. He was an intern here at 104.5 ESPN. But he started playing just after I left the beat and then was gone from LSU by the time I jumped back into radio. So didn't have any sort of relationship at all with Will Clapp. But I was thinking about a young kid whose dad played at LSU, who goes to high school at Brother Martin. And, like, if you're a junior in high school at Brother Martin who's a really good football player, whose dad played football in college, like, what would you want to do? And I think the answer for most people, not all, but most people is, I'd like to go to LSU, I'd like to play for the Tigers, and I'd like to play for the Saints. And Will Clapp got a scholarship offer to play at LSU, was a 3-year starter at LSU, a 2-time All-SEC player. He was All-SEC at guard and at center at LSU. Was a 7th-round pick of the Saints, made the team, played for the Saints for 3 years, went to the Chargers, went to the Bills, came back to the Saints, and unfortunately had that Liz Frank injury in August of last year that cost him this past season and ultimately ended his playing career. But you got to realize that not every NFL career looks like Drew Brees or looks like Cam Jordan. Not every NFL career looks like a 5-time Pro Bowler who goes to the Hall of Fame. Like, it's hard to make a team for 1 year in the NFL. And Will Clapp did that as a 7th-round pick, beat the odds and did it. Became a starting player for San Diego. And thankfully for him, I think, worked with Kellen Moore in San Diego. So after his time in Buffalo, when Kellen Moore got the head job with the Saints, Kellen Moore called Will Clapp, said, hey, I want you to come be on the team. And he got hurt, so he wasn't on the field, but reading Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, Kellen Moore's had a lot of really glowing things to say about Will Clapp. And, oh, by the way, Jari Evans, former offensive line assistant with the Saints, has moved on. There's a vacancy there. Could Will Clapp, in his hometown, where he's got now a wife and 2 kids, and obviously family there, could he launch a coaching career starting with the Saints right there? Wouldn't that be an incredible thing? I don't know if Will wants to do that or not. I don't know if the Saints will offer him that opportunity or not, but Ross Jackson certainly hinted at it in his retirement piece on LouisianaSports.net, and I think that would be awesome. It's just really cool. I can't put myself in the shoes of many professional athletes. I just don't. That's not my world. But I can put myself into the shoes of a high school athlete in Louisiana. I wore those shoes poorly, but I wore them. And the opportunity to play for that college and to play for that professional team, and then maybe get your start in coaching without, traveling the entire country, which is a positive in some respects. And he did go to LA and he did go to Buffalo. But being home's home. That's a really cool thing. And so for Will Clapp, an incredible career at Brother Martin, incredible career at LSU, and a damn strong NFL career as well. Not a Pro Bowler, not a 5-year starter. He won't be in any all-decade teams. He's not making the Hall of Fame. But he hung around. He made himself worth it. And now it may pay dividends as he could get into coaching. So congratulations to Will Clapp on an incredible career, high school, college, and professional. A young man from the city of New Orleans doing awesome things in the state of Louisiana. So congrats to him on a fantastic career. And whatever's next for Will Clapp, I'm quite confident he'll be quite successful at it. Heck of a go for the New Orleans native. That's it for hour number 1. Quick move in hour number 1 here. When we come back, let's talk some football. Combine up in Indy. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing. LifetimeRoofingLA.com is the website. LifetimeRoofingLA.com. Look, not every issue with a roof means you need a brand new roof. There are probably roofing companies out there that are going to do whatever they can to make the most money they can, and the most money they can make is to sell you a new roof. Let the folks at Lifetime Roofing come over and inspect your roof if you think you may have an issue. They'll take a look, and maybe you need a new roof, and they'll help you with that. And if financing needs to be involved, they got 0% for 18 months. Maybe you don't need a new roof. Maybe you just need a repair. They can do it. Maybe you just need to tune that thing up, fortify your roof. They can help there. Maybe there's no issue at all, and they'll tell you to move on your way. Lifetime Roofing can offer you a lifetime workmanship warranty, 0% financing, and a local company that's going to do what's best for you. Check them out online, lifetimeroofingla.com. That's lifetimeroofingla.com.